So we're back to the phase ratios question. Is there an optimal phase ratio that you can say, okay, everybody should be doing jump-dominated techniques, or maybe one that's individual, maybe, I don't know, you are a hop-dominated jumper and you a jump-dominated jumper, and how can you tell which phase ratio is better to each athlete? The Brazilian triple jumpers, but not only the Brazilian, most of them are hop-dominated or balanced triple jumpers. Very few are jump-dominated triple jumpers in Brazil, even though we have João Carlos de Oliveira saying that the Brazilians should be jump-dominated triple jumpers. But most of them are not. Actually, in the world, most of the athletes, most of the triple jumpers, they are all hop-dominated or balanced triple jumpers. Very few are jump-dominated triple jumpers. What you see is that when we study individual cases, they become less hop-dominated, they improve, okay? Sometimes they don't change, they keep being hop-dominated, but when they are less hop-dominated, they improve the total distance. Or when they change from hop-dominated to balanced, or from balanced to jump-dominated, usually this is accompanied by an improvement at the total distance. The central point at the triple jump technique, it's not really a question of ratios. It's a question of dominate this action, active landings. This is what allows me to keep the speed going through the jump, to the jump phase, with speed, keeping the speed to the jump phase. And what it is, active landings. In the past, we thought that if I'm moving at 10 meters per second, if my foot comes back at 10 meters per second, I have no braking, so I can keep the speed to the last phase, okay? But now you know that it's impossible to pull the foot back at 10 meters per second. But in relation to the hip, the foot is coming back. So let's take a look here. He's moving at 10 meters per second, but the foot is coming back at 7 meters per second. So the foot actually is going forward in relation to the ground, to the floor, to the ground, at only 3 meters per second. So he's losing some speed, but not much. Look at the step phase, 9.5 meters per second. So he lost some speed, but not much. So the idea is to have your foot coming back in relation to the hip at approximately 6 or 7 meters per second. That represents an active landing. So you do not lose so much horizontal speed. But you are losing. At every contact, you are a little bit lower than before. 10.2 meters per second, 9.5, 8.3. So you are losing some speed, but not much. If you are good at doing the active landings, even with a 620 hop, you can jump at the step, good distance, and a good distance mainly at the jump phase. So improving the active landing, even though not decreasing the hop phase, you can have a less hop-dominated technique. Okay? Or you can move even from hop-dominated to balanced, or from balanced to jump-dominated technique. This is Christian Olson and Gregorio, the big one. This is 2003. Here in Birmingham again. Olson won with 1770, and Gregorio was, I think, 6th with 1680 something. You can see that Gregorio has a hope that's a little bit higher than Olson, but approximately the same size, the same length. At the step phase, Olson is faster, and at the jump phase, he's far faster. So the biggest difference occurs at the jump phase. Let's see why the jump was so different between Olson and Gregorio. At the landing, you can see two things. That angle is too different, so Gregorio has his foot well in front of the hip, and also very close to the hip, okay? And the arm position shows that Olson is having a very active landing, and Gregorio is waiting for the floor, okay? So he's losing a lot of speed here, even though he's very strong. He doesn't have the speed to keep going, to keep moving during the jump phase, in opposition to Christian Olson, who has a lot of speed left to have a huge jump phase. But you can see, look, Olson, like a high jumper, you can see that Gregorio doesn't do that at the hoop. And then after that, you can do a double action arm, okay? But the problem with Gregorio is that that double action arm was occurring too late. He was waiting for the ground. And from here, what happens is this, a big collapse. I couldn't jump from that position. Most of us couldn't jump from that position, but he's a beast. He was a beast, so he could jump anyway, but with no speed at all. So a very, very short jump phase. He improved it. The next year at the World Championships in Budapest, now he had a jump phase. And this is one of my Chinese. He's jumping 1740 here in La Chaux-de-Fonds in June. And look at the takeoff of the hoop for the jump phase, the maximum flexion of the knee, 146 degrees. So very stiff, very stiff. It was a very long jump phase. And this is in Doha. He jumped only 1697. He couldn't advance in the top 8. He was number 9. But look at this, 119 degrees. So he collapsed just like Gregorio and couldn't take off for a good jump phase. He jumped more than 640 at the last one here. And he jumped less than 6 meters here. So his strongest phase is the jump. And he couldn't jump from that position because he didn't do an active landing there. He did here, but not there. So the active landing is what was the central component of the technique at the triple jump, from my point of view, okay? But some athletes, they really overhoop. So that's why you have to study each one individually. If they are overhooping, of course, it's going to be very difficult to do a good step phase, and there will be no speed to do a good jump phase as well. The takeoff angle at the triple jump, at the hoop, is far lower than at the long jump. You cannot see anybody taking off more than 16 degrees. If they are using more than 16 degrees, they are overhooping. So it has to be flat. And there is the question of the arm action. We have discussed this a little bit, but again, when you hit the board, for the 3 techniques of the arm action, when you hit the board, you are at the same position. Ideally, you are at the same position. From here, you have a natural action, or you have that more how can I say, higher action with the arm, like Markov used to do, or you can have a 1.5 action, followed by double actions at the other 2 contacts, okay? The idea is to keep as much speed as possible into the hoop. So you do not do any kind of preparation with the arms before you hit the board. Of course, you see athletes that cannot do it well. Sometimes they do the preparation before the board with a lot of success, like Christian Olso or Christian Taylor. But it's different from the model. You do not teach that. You try to correct that. If you are successful, good. Sometimes you are not. And finally, the landing. Our goals: to keep the heels, is it right? Heels or heels? Heels, okay. Far in front of the center of mass, and the center of mass close to the sand. If I land at this position, is it good or bad? Looks bad, because the center of mass is too far from the sand, okay? A good position is like this. The heel is far from here, and my hip is close to the sand pit. So that's a good landing position, both for the long jump and the triple jump. Do you remember when I said that that line, the path of the center of mass, cannot be changed when you are free in the air, right? When my arms goes down, what happens to my center of mass? Goes down, right? But the path of the center of mass doesn't change. So what's actually happening with my body when my arms go down? My body is going up. So I can gain a little bit, just a little bit, but I can gain some time flying if I throw my arms down. Okay? That line doesn't change. Okay? But the position of my center of mass changes if I change my segments. Okay? My center of mass is here. Now it's here. Now it's here. Now it's here. Okay? So during the flight is the same. If my arms goes down, my center of mass is going down. But the path doesn't change. So my body is a little bit higher. Okay? So the action of the arms, in order to increase a little bit, just a little bit, but each centimeter counts. I learned that in 2008 in Beijing. Okay? Each centimeter counts. If the arms are going down, your body is going a little bit up, and you gain some time of flight. If the arms are going backwards, down, and backwards, what is my center of mass? A little bit down, so my body is a little bit higher, and a little bit backwards, so my body is a little bit forwards. So I can gain another centimeter maybe. So that's the action for the landing. Throw your arms down and backwards. That's a good position to hit the sand. And here just an example, some of my athletes trying to reach that position. Some are very successful doing that. Some are not so successful, but the idea is there. Throwing the arms down and backwards. All of them try to do that, okay? Some are rotating a little bit more. That's the case of Moura at that attempt. So the arms are thrown down and backwards, but it's too high at this point. I'm not sure if Martins will be able to keep that position till the landing, and Saladino is doing the same.